19. Furthermore, there is a significant distinction in the location of this assembling. It is in the air. 4. 17. While the assembling described in Zechariah 14 and Revelation 14 is on the Mount of Olives.
Answer: these arguments are a grasping for straws. They have no validity at all. Actually, Zechariah 14 does not say that the Lord gathers his saints on, or while standing on, the Mount of Olives. Here is what it does say regarding the gathering of his saints. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with him. Zechariah 14 verse 7. Clearly it is when he shall come, not after he came, that they are gathered with him. Revelation 14 does not mention the Mount of Olives, but rather Mount Zion, where the 144,000 are with Christ, but it doesn't say that this is the very spot on which they were gathered initially. Matt 24 definitely includes the Jewish saints in that assembling, and the actual gathering does not take place on the Mount of Olives. If by the air, it is speaking of the literal air in our atmosphere, rather than to the jurisdiction of power said to be in the air in Ephesians 2 verse 2, which is more likely, then there are at least 3 proofs that this meeting in Matt 24 takes place in the same air as Thess 4. Read Matt 2400 hours 31 carefully. And he shall be dispatching his messengers with a loud sounding trumpet, and they shall be assembling his chosen from the 4 winds. Matt 2400 hours 31, Webster's wind, moving air. Emphasis mine. And they shall see the Son of Mankind coming on the clouds of heaven with power and much glory. Matt 2400 hours 30, clouds are only found in the air. Even fog is still in the air. No clouds rise brighter than the air. Although it doesn't actually say that Christ came from outer space to then be located on the clouds of heaven, many, nonetheless, assume such a thing. Regardless, wind is in heaven, clouds are in heaven, and air is in heaven. To come from any of them requires being in the air. And as all astronauts know, it is not possible to return to Earth without going through the air. There may be holes in the ozone, but there are no holes in the air. From the tape, when the Lord descends, it doesn't ever say that he returns to the earth, but just descends from heaven, and the meeting you notice is in the air. Answer: true, it doesn't say. Even the author of Consolation in Expectation, page 24, concedes, there is something here which suggests that we go up and not down, that our abode is the heaven, and not earth, but it is only intimated, not revealed. I know of no scripture that states that Christ will set up his kingdom and rule it from heaven. So it doesn't say he returns to heaven, it doesn't say he returns to earth, it doesn't say he stays in the air either. We know from other scriptures and prophesies that Christ does indeed return and rule on this earth. However, for the sake of the rapturists, can we know from this very scripture alone whether Christ immediately returns with his saints to earth, or does he return to heaven first for a number of years? We can learn something remarkable from the way that God uses the word meet in this scripture. Thereupon we, the living who are surviving, shall at the same time be snatched away together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air. 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 17. In this verse, as in 3 others, God uses the Greek word apothesis, which is translated to meet. It is distinguished from a half-dozen other Greek words which are variously translated meet, meet with, meeting, meeting with, etc. The Greek word apothesis is, however, used only 3 other times. One authority tells us that this word apothesis was used in ancient times to describe the actions of an official welcoming delegation that had been sent to meet a visiting dignitary. It is said that the word literally meant meeting and returning with. Not being an etymologist, historian, or scholar, I can't speak with any authority here, but I can use a concordance and I can read the scriptures. Let's look at these 3 occasions and see if, indeed, this word carries the connotation of meeting and returning with. Now in the middle of the night a clamor occurs, lo! The bridegroom. Come out to meet, apothesis, him. Matt 25:6. Comment, after they went out to meet the bridegroom, they didn't stay outside, but rather they came back inside with the bridegroom. Remember, it is midnight and it is dark, that's why they took oil for their torches. They went out to meet the bridegroom, then returned with him to the house, and locked the door. When Christ began his entrance into Jerusalem, which was itself a type of his triumphant return to Jerusalem, many people went out with palm fronds to meet him. On the morrow the vast throng, who are coming for the festival, hearing that Jesus is coming into Jerusalem, got fronds of palms and came out to meet, apathesis, him, John 12 verse 13. Needless to say, they did not return with Christ back to Bethany, but returned back into Jerusalem with Christ. When the saints in Rome heard of Paul's soon arrival, they went out to meet him. And thence the brethren, hearing about us, come to meet, apathesis, us as far as Appii Forum and 3 taverns, perceiving whom, Paul, thanking God, took courage. Now when we entered Rome, Acts 28 verses 15 to 16. And again, it is seen that they returned back to Rome with Paul, they did not return with Paul back to Puteoli. The 4th time this Greek word apathesis is translated, to meet, is in 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 17, we, the living who are surviving, shall at the same time be snatched away together with them in the clouds, to meet, apathesis, the Lord in the air. Now I am almost sure that I can hear faint protests in the distance from objecting rapturists. Notwithstanding, based on all the usages of this word apathesis, to meet, and we read them all, when someone went out to meet someone else, where did they always go next? That's right, back where they came from. So if God is consistent with the use of this word, then when the saints of Ithes, for meet the Lord in the air, they will then return with Christ back to the earth.
20 later, Paul carries this revelation further along by explaining that our bodies will be changed to celestial bodies. Icor 15, 42, 53 for our citizenship is in the heavens. Phil 3, 20 while Abraham and his faithful descendants are promised a specific portion of the earth. Gen. 15, 18, 21, with regard to what kind of bodies the patriarchs of the Old Testament will be given. The author states, of course they will have to be given bodies again, but to say that they will be that much different, they will still have to remain terrestrial bodies, because their realm is terrestrial, so they will be bodies much greater than they had before, but still terrestrial in their nature, as ours will be celestial. Emphasis mine.